So we're looking at Skylanders Swap Force today, the biggest moneymaker out of every single game. It all just went downhill from there, but Swap Force did make the most money out of every single game, and honestly, I think it should. Giants, made more money than SSA, so shouldn't Swap Force make more money than Giants? I think so, but sadly, Trap Team didn't, and it all just went, like I said, downhill from there. But we'll be reviewing Skylanders Swap Force in this episode. Again, the starter pack is around $70. It may vary from where you live, but it is around $70, and it is a pretty good price for the starter pack. You get the game, you get the Swap Force figures in Blast Zone and Washbuckler, and then you get Series 3 Stealth Elf, which, I mean, no one played a Series 3 Stealth Elf. I mean, she got undermined by the Swap Force. Something did happen to a lot of the cores, sadly. But yeah, let's talk about Skylanders Swap Force. Now, the first thing I want to say, the graphics are noticeably different in this game than from the first two games. And while I do think the graphics are a step up, what they did with the graphics, I think, is a step down. I think the scenery is pretty good. There aren't my favorite graphics, but Swap Force doesn't have my favorite graphics, but I think the levels do look pretty good, but what they did, like I said, with the graphics aren't. Like what they did with the characters. Flynn looks really weird in this game. I don't care what any of you say. Flynn looks really weird. I mean, just look at him. Just look at him. Just no. Also, the characters in this game do look a lot more plasticky and more toyish than actually looking pretty cool and Skylander-ish. I mean, look at T-Rex. Look at him in all of his glory. That's Skylanders Giants. And then look at him in Skylanders Swap Force. He looks a little bit more plasticky, don't you guys think? I think so. Like I said, the scenery and the levels do look pretty good, but the actual characters in this game, it is a step down. They just look more plasticky and toyish, and it is just a overall step down with the graphics, but it is what it is. Hi, Editing Skylander Gamer TV here, and I just realized that I never talked about how they put jumping into the game. So I gotta say, I'm just so glad that they finally put jumping into Skylanders. It makes platforming so much easier, and it probably should have been a thing ever since the beginning. It's so much better than having to move around blocks and stuff like that to get to a platform. Instead, you can jump on blocks and stuff like that to get to a platform, It's just so much better, and I think they made the jumping sections pretty good as well, where you had to jump around and stuff like that. Just the platforming is just so much better than having to move blocks around and stuff like that. So I'm very glad that Swap Force did in fact add jumping. Okay, like I said, the levels do look pretty cool, but these levels take forever to finish. If you want to get that 3-star, the levels can take from anywhere from from 40 to an hour to complete. An hour to complete one level. That sucks. That is not good at all, having to take an hour for a level to get completed. And maybe in other games where it is expected to take an hour to complete this level, this game just goes way too far. There's just so much content in each level, and I know that sounds like a good thing, but this is just too much. You have swap zones, you have elemental gates, the levels themselves are just super long. It can take you probably more than an hour to get if you're trying to find everything, and that's not good at all. But I must say the levels, for the most part, are some pretty good levels. They try to push boss battles as levels, but come on guys, the boss battles aren't levels. I mean, like I said, the levels just take extremely long, and that's just not good, I feel like. And also, it's not like the other games as well, where all the other games will probably take maybe 30 to 40 minutes to complete. This one takes, like I said, an hour. Just not good. And unlike Skylanders Adventure and Skylanders Giants, everything is all in the same area. Everything in the level is all in the same area. Even if it is locked behind elemental gates, everything is in the same area in Skylanders Spyro's Adventure. In this game, it isn't. In most of these swap zones, it takes you out of the level and brings you to a separate area, thus taking you out of the level that you were in, making it feel really disjointed. The only swap zones that do not take you out of the actual experience are the Climb Swap Force zones, which is a shame because besides the Climb Swap Force zones, everything else takes place out of the level when it comes to Swap Force zones, which isn't good and a step down. Also, the gimmick. I must talk about the gimmick. The gimmick for Skylanders Swap Force is probably one of my favorite gimmicks, actually. I know I haven't been saying that much good about Swap Force, but Swap Force actually has a pretty good gimmick. The gimmick is great. I mean, it's such an imaginative gimmick. Taking apart a character and putting the top on and their character's bottom, making a new one, is really cool. But let me get with my complaints with this gimmick. Most, if not more than half, of the swappers, the swap abilities, probably more than half of the swap abilities in this game probably never get used. Like, no one's gonna use Rubble Kraken, Gorilla Loop? Yeah, Gorilla Loop. No one's gonna use Gorilla Loop or like Rattle Drilla. You know what I'm saying? There's just so many swap abilities that will probably never get used. 256 is a big number. And that's how many swap abilities are in this game, and just probably more than half of them never get used. But the gimmick is great, I will give it that. Swap Force does have a pretty good gimmick. Now with the gimmick though, the gimmick does take away from the cores. A lot of people probably didn't get all the cores. They are mainly focused on the swappers, because the elemental gates can only be opened by a swapper that has the two different tops and bottoms, or two cores that are different elements. And as a single player, if you're playing like just by yourself in this game, you're probably not gonna get another controller just so you can get into an elemental gate. I do understand though. I think having swappable elemental gates is a good thing, but it just takes away from the cores. If there was like an area where only cores could enter, maybe it would have been better. And like I said, the swap force zones, they are a cool thing, but I really could have gone without the swap force zones. The only really swap force zone that I actually really do enjoy are the speed zones. I think the speed zones are actually some pretty good zones. I enjoy the speed zones. Also, this game got rid of Sky Stones. It got rid of Sky Stones. How could you get rid of Sky Stones? Sky Stone was such a good part of Skylanders Giants, and they just got rid of it. Why would Swap Force get rid of Sky Stones? I mean, just come on, Swap Force. But with all that being said, let's talk about what you can do after the game. Battle mode is still a thing, and this is where I really get kind of weird about my review, because there is so much to do after Swap Force. There is time challenge and stuff like that. There is a lot of stuff you can do after the game is done. You can still have battle mode. There's time challenges. There's again, arena battles. There's just a bunch of stuff you can do at the end of the game, which makes it a really replayable game. But with all that being said, I just feel like Skylanders Swap Force goes backwards on a lot of things that Giants improved. It is I'm not sure. I think it is a better game than SSA. I don't know. Some days I'll probably think it's worse than SSA. Some days I'll probably think it's better than SSA. But as of right now, I do think it is a slightly better game than SSA, but it just goes backwards with a lot of things that Giants did improve. So, sadly, I have to give Skylanders Swap Force a 7 out of 10. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Skylanders Swap Force. It's a great game. It's a Skylanders game, for goodness sake. I love Skylanders Swap Force, but I just think Giants improved a lot of things that SSA had wrong, and then Skylanders Swap Force just goes backwards on it. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I love Skylanders Swap Force, but I just think it goes backwards with a lot of things the Giants improved. And I know I'm probably repeating myself with that thing, but it's just true. So I have to give Skylanders Swap Force that 7 out of 10. And 7 out of 10 is still it's still really good. No, not pretty good. 7 out of 10 is really, really good. SSA got a 7 out of 10. But that's just how it is. Got to give it a 7 out of 10. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this review video of Skylanders Swap Force. And thank you guys for watching.